So you guys can see this browser for code part also, right? No screen share.
Yes.
Yes.
We'll start. So yes, so today's session is about ECMA ES6 and functional programming. So first of all, like I would like to know if someone has already any context about what is ES6 thing, if someone has used it or have read about it before.
Like ES6 is like it has new features like JavaScript. In I think ES6 2015 or 16 they added new features and called it ES6 standard. So like there are new features like array destructuring
Yeah.
and arrow functions, I guess. Kind of thing.
So anything? Okay, good. I think that sounds good for now. So yeah, these were the topics which we covered last in the last session. It was about intro to React, difference between traditional and virtual DOM, and setting up a basic React project. So what we'll be doing today is we'll see like what is ES6 actually, and what are the new features which have been introduced to JavaScript, and then we'll have a short intro about functional programming. Like what is a functional programming? Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, what is ES6? So ES6 is basically officially called as ECMAScript 2015. What is ECMAScript? It is a JavaScript standards defined by peoples and organizations. So suppose in all the language we have few standards and guidelines which we need to follow while writing the code. So as we see, like in Python, we use tabs instead of braces, right? How we need to make use of indentation. Similarly, in Golang, we have different programming style, and so does in Java, C, C++. So these are like kind of those standards which have been defined, how this JavaScript should be written and how it should work. And this was the first major update to JavaScript language after 2009. And why it is called ES6 is basically it is the sixth version, a revision of the standards. So it's the sixth time it has been revised to the new standards, and that's why we call it in shorthand as ES6. Sounds good. Anything so far, like any questions or anything?
No.
I think it will be good, like if all can unmute the mics and just respond, like whenever there's something.
Yeah, yeah.
Just feel free to ask question in case there's something. So we'll go through like what is new in ES6. So we'll start with the first thing, which are let and const. So I'm not sure like if you guys have read about JavaScript hosting till now, like how variable are declared and how those are hosted within JavaScript language. So anyone have any idea about the hosting thing, like how variable are hosted in JavaScript? Has someone heard this term before?
I heard it, but I don't remember right now.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, someone said yes, so maybe she or he can explain a bit if they would like to. Yeah.
Hello.
Nice.
Yes, sir. So, hosting just like concept in JavaScript, like
Mhm.
when it works with var and let. Like, so what happen is at the time of JavaScript works in two phases, that is in creation phase and the execution phase. So
Yeah.
at the time of creation phase, all the variables that are declared with variable var, so they
Yeah.
are variables and the functions. So the definitions, like the variable are defined to as undefined, and that function name is directed to the that function memory address to that. So if we access those variable without initializing that, and then it will give an error as undefined. But in case of let and const, they give us
Ah,
an reference error.
Yeah, cool. I think I'll explain it now. But yeah, that sounds pretty much okay. So basically, yeah, as he told, like there are two phases of JavaScript thing. One is creation phase and one is execution phase. So what happens is whenever a script is run in browser, it will go through it. What it will do is it will see for all the variables which are being used, if they are with where keyword or they are without any keywords, and those will be like declared globally in the context. So within the browser context of your page, it will be declared globally. And if or locally, like in case if they those variable are within a function. So we'll see an example of it. So suppose I try to do console. You can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you see the text also, or should I zoom a bit?
No, no, it's okay.
Okay. So suppose I try to print something called hello. This is a variable I'm trying to do log thing. I create this variable using var keyword and I assign this a value hello world. Cool. So now if I run this thing, what happens behind the scene is this code is something similar to behind the screen. What happen is it will first see like what all variable have been declared. It sees like there is something with where hello. So what it does, it moves the declaration to the top. So you must have read about two things. One is declaration, one is initialization of variable, right? So declaration just means we have declared a variable. Initialization means we assign some value to the variable. So what JavaScript will do, it will host this variable to the top. The code behind the scene will be something like this, where hello, then it will be console.log hello, and then it will be hello equal to hello world. So this is how it looks behind the browser. And when it will run this thing, it comes to console.log, it see hello, we are printing, but there is no value assigned to this variable. So it comes as undefined to us. But this is how like JavaScript used to work before. There is something added new to language. There is a keyword called use strict. So what it does is it tells the browser to strictly follow the JavaScript guidelines, and there should not be any variable used before declaring it. So if I add this to the top of my file and I try to run this thing, I have to do, I think, I think REPL don't support this at the moment. We are in Node.js thing. So what it will does is, yeah, so this use a strict keyword will see like we have used this hello before this thing, before declaration, and it will throw reference error. It should be giving like reference error, hello has not been declared yet, instead of showing it as undefined. I think that is because of it's not working over here because of some REPL environment thing. So what new has been added is latent const now. So latent const are like blocked scope variable. So what does block scope mean? So like they will be accessible within the context or the block they have been defined. So suppose I so we'll try one example where I equal to 0, I less than 3, I plus plus. I run this loop, I print console.log, I print I, and outside the loop also I print I. And if I run this, what will it print? It will print 0, 1, 2, and this statement is also printing 3. It's because it has been declared with var. So what will happen? This will be So based on JavaScript hosting thing, this declaration will move to the top. It will be something like where and now it will be like this. It's similar to this thing, and I can access it outside this for loop also because it has declaration has been moved up. But in case I use let over here and I run this program, you will see reference error I is not defined. So what it does it restricted the scope of this I variable within this scope of the braces within the for loop. So this I value won't be accessible outside this for loop. Same happens in const also. Const is also a block scope variable. So if I have some function defined hello, and I define any variable using, so suppose I defined a equal to string kind of thing, something, and I try to access it outside, it won't be accessible because a has been defined within this function scope and it will be only accessible within this. I can log it within the function, it will work. Over here, if I'll print the a, it will print everything. I will have to call this function. So we can see string has been printed. It is being used inside it. So one difference between let and const are only read-only variables. So it's similar to constants. Basically, once you have defined a value to it, you cannot assign it again. So if I will try to assign a some another value something, it will throw out an error. That is like a is a constant and assignment to constant variable is not allowed. Whereas let works as a variable kind of thing, and you can assign it again and again. Anything till this point? Any questions, any doubts?
No.
No.
Sounds good.
Or what is the exact difference between let and where?
Uh,
They are both are dynamic. We can change their values.
so difference is between the how like JavaScript hosts those variable. So I told na ki where is like declared on global scope. Whenever JavaScript runs, it will see like what all variable has been defined with where keyword, and their declaration will be moved to top. Whereas let and const both are block scope, so they can be accessed within the braces in which they have been defined. So as I show you this example, you can see my screen now.
Yes.
So we'll just see the first thing. I declared this with where keyword, right?
Yes. That I got. That both are dynamic. We can change their
Not
values. But
dynamic,
so
not dynamic thing. So see, if I print I outside the loop also, na, I'll add this outside loop.
it won't get any error. There won't be any error.
It will print the value. Why is it so? Because this is like
Protected.
globally declared. So JavaScript move the declaration for where keyword to the top of the JavaScript file. So if I have some variable defined over here also now where a behind the scene what happens is it will be moved to the top of the file. So it will be something called where a like this over here. And you
Okay.
can still print it, it will give undefined. But with let, what happens is if I use let over here, right, and I try to print I, what will happen is it will give reference error now. Why it is reference error? Because I've used let keyword and it has restricted it scope to within these braces. So I can use I within this braces anywhere, but I cannot use outside it.
This is the only difference between where and let, or is there any
Yeah.
other difference?
This is the only difference between
Okay.
where and let and const. And the
Okay.
difference between let and const is between like let is variable and const is not variable.
Constant.
Okay.
Now there is one more thing like objects. So you must have seen objects till now in JavaScript, like how we define objects. objects assigned to a variable using constant are still mutable. So like we told, like constant values cannot be changed, right? We cannot redeclare the constant. So suppose if I have constant a equal to some string and I try to assign some value to it, I cannot assign it again. This will give an error because it is a const. But in case of object, what it is saying, suppose object, like it can be object or array. Array is also treated as object in JavaScript. So I'll take an example of array. So suppose this is an array. I defined it with const variable. So it doesn't mean that I cannot change the value within the array. I can access the values directly. I can do array equals 0 equal to 4, and I can, if I will print this array, you will see value has changed. But if I try to assign like a equal to 4 comma 5, now it will give array. So we cannot assign the value to const variable again, which has been already declared, but we can still mutate the values within those objects. So this holds true for object only. So if you want to change any value within the object, that is possible with const variable, const keyword variables also. So yeah, this is something you should keep in mind. Like it's not like that you have defined an array and if its value won't be changed. So there it can result in many like scenarios where you might face issues with this thing. Cool. Apart from this, yeah, but there is like a method in JavaScript called object.freeze, which was added in ES6 along with this thing. So what it does, it freezes the object. So if I do object dot so this is on object property, object dot freeze my array, and if now I try to change the value of array variable, so suppose I do array plus 0 equal to 4. So before it was working, right? Now if I try to print this thing, what it will do is, I think I should do this console first. Is it even working? Yeah. So if I do object dot freeze on our a variable, you'll see like I tried to change its value, but its value has not changed. So it will freeze the object. It won't allow you to change the value of the object after this thing.
And also it will not give error also.
Yeah, it won't give error, but you won't, even if you try to mutate the object, it won't happen. One more scenario over here is like if I am working with object thing specifically. So suppose I have object. You must have seen nested object already, right?
Yeah.
So if I have something called name column Sagar and I have uh, another property called hobbies colon a comma b, right? And if I use now object dot freeze on this, so I freeze my object. Now I will just log it. So what I try to do is now I am trying to change value of my array dot name property to something else. So I will debug and I'm trying to change array dot hobbies 0 equal to C, right? So if I run this thing, it will read about this right now. Like if we use freeze, it will freeze the object and we won't be able to change the value. But what we see is name has not been changed, but hobbies, I can see my value has been replaced. So why this happen is like this object dot freeze work on the first level. It don't work on the nested level. So it will freeze all the objects which are on first level. But if they are like nested objects, so I have this object within this object. Hobbies is also an array, and array are treated as object. So this won't be freezed. These property will be freezed. I can still change the nested property values. So this is a drawback of freeze till now also. So there is nothing like specifically to fully like freeze a object in JavaScript so far. We'll have to like implement it by on our own if we want to do something of that sort. Cool. Any question over here?
Why can't we use object.freeze hobbies?
We are using object. So you'll have to then again do like over here you will have to do object dot freeze, and then you'll have to define over here like a dot hobbies. So right now you know the structure, right? Ki you have this on a single nested level. Suppose it is something like this. So it is like deeply nested. So you have something a colons over here some value. Then you have again b colon some new object. So if you will I try to freeze it, what it will do is it will freeze this value, but this will still be mutable. So you don't know like how many level of nesting is there. Right now you know that object defined, but in real world, like when you'll be dealing with API responses and all those things, you won't know like what data will be coming. So you can't be sure every time like how much nested it can be.
But we can do if we
Yeah,
want to.
that you can do, yeah, but that way you will have to do manually for each level of nesting.
Okay.
Object.freeze will just freeze on the first level of the object. It won't do nested freezing.
Okay.
Cool. So know that, these are the major thing about latent const. We will move to arrow functions now. So yeah, arrow functions. Anyone have any idea about like what are arrow functions? So you can see the syntax over here, right? This is how new arrow functions are written. So anyone would like to say something about this?
Like it's a syntax sugar. They call it syntax sugar
Kind of a new way of writing functions
function.
and
Yeah.
anything apart from that?
Like we have a lot of changes in arrow function. Like like the working of this is
Yeah,
different and regular function and arrow function. And the main
yeah.
difference is that we can't make constructor from arrow function because we don't have prototypes in
Your
arrow
voice
function.
is not properly audible. I'm not sure who is speaking, but
I'm saying like that we can't make constructor functions from arrow functions and
yeah,
that we
yeah,
can do
that's
with
fine.
regular function. And the working of this is different in arrow function apart from
Definitely.
that regular functions.
Yeah, sounds good. Like it's pretty much correct. Everything is. Sorry, I'm not sure about your name. I can't see like who is speaking to me. So, so arrow functions, as you told, like first thing is they are like a kind of a new way to write functions expression, like how we used to define function. We can have something like this also. We'll discuss the syntax in a few minutes. Second is like how function used to behave before. So there is a reserved keyword in JavaScript called this. So what happened is currently this refers to the Windows scope, like wherever that function of wherever this is being used, it refers to the Windows scope. But within the arrow function, it works pretty differently. So what arrow function do is it binds this to the scope in which that function was defined, not to the global level. It will bind that to the scope of the function, like wherever it has been defined. So we'll see it in practice when we'll be working with React thing. So, and I have added a link to read more about it, like how this works. So I will share this PPT. You can go to the link documentation, see what is this keyword and how it works out. But yeah, for now we'll look into like what are the differences between arrow functions and what all we can do over here. Yes, so first thing is before, like we used to define function like function or function name, and we used to define like this. We had console as whatever we wanted to do. We used to do like over here. Hello. Same thing. Like we can do how we can define the same function over here again is in ES6 is something like we can use let or const. It's preferred for function to use const because we don't want by mistake like declare two function with same name. Otherwise, it might result in some issues with the code. So it's preferred to use const while declaring function. So you can name. So we can have this as. Then we have equal to. It's similar to like how we used to create variables, but instead of variable thing, we'll just have this syntax. This is called arrow function. We have something braces over here, similar to these. And before these opening braces, we have arrow. So we can do the same thing over here also. Both will work exactly same at the moment. So if I do old function and new function, they both work pretty much same. Now